We are in Genesis chapter 15. Abraham has rescued his nephew Lot from the four kings of the north. He's returned with all the spoil, with all the people that they took captive. He brings them all back, and he's met there by two kings. He's met there by the king of Sodom. His name is Bela, and his name means son of evil. And Sodom means burning. Here's this picture of this evil king coming out to meet him. And he says to Abraham, hey, why don't you keep all the stuff? You take all of the stuff. I just want the souls. And what a picture that is of evil. But another king meets him there, a guy named Melchizedek. Melchizedek means king of righteousness. He is king of Salem, king of peace. He's a picture of Christ in so many ways. And Abraham is so blown away by him, meeting him there with bread and wine, the picture of, the blood and the body. That's how we're saved. That's how we're kept. That's what goes on. Abraham gives him a tenth of all, and he tells the king, Bela, he's going to take nothing from his hand. And then in chapter 15, verse 1, and it says, and after these things, the word of the Lord came to Abram in a vision, saying, do not be afraid, Abram. I am your shield and your exceedingly great reward. Imagine Abe, this humble guy who's a city dweller, who's moved, 1,000 miles out west. He's just dwelling in tents out here in the country, and he's just taken on four kings and defeated them, by surprise at night. He's gathered all the stuff. He's brought it back, and now he's resting in his tent, wondering how long is it going to be before those guys hear where I am and they come for me. And he's getting himself all stirred up. He's getting himself all anxious, staying up nights. He's probably setting a watch. Hey, why don't you watch tonight, or you watch the first 4 hours, and we'll do this thing. He's expecting to hear they're marching towards him at any time. You see, in chapter 14, we saw the fearless man of faith. Abraham, with 318 armed servants, chases down these four kings, defeats them. But in 15, we see the emotional side of that, the aftermath, right? And, emotions are very real. I don't know if any of you have ever experienced emotions, Jesus was a man of sorrows, acquainted with grief. He had emotion, he wept. But the trap we fall into is we begin to say things like this. Well, I feel like this. Well, I feel like that. And we've got to learn to live by truth and not by feelings. Truth is higher than emotion. Truth is higher than that. So here, God says to Abram, fear not. Why do you think he said that? Well, because there was fear going on, right? I mean, God just doesn't show up and say, hey, don't be thinking about the pink elephant in the room. There's no pink elephant in the room, He's talking right to the man. This is the first time that the Lord tells, us humans to fear not. But it's the first of many, many times. Because he constantly has to remind us, I got you. I've got you. Boy, don't we need that message today, right? Right now, today, sitting in your seat, you know what the Lord says? I've got you. Fear not. If you're mine, if we have this relationship, there's nothing to fear. Abe was so successful against these kings. But in the back of his mind, he's thinking, well, maybe that was just a fluke, you know. Maybe that was just, you know, surely God was with me there, but I'm not sure he's with me here. And, you know, what if they come? And God sees what's going on inside of Abraham's heart, and he speaks right to it. He's worried also, apparently, that he'd given up all that stuff. What if I need that stuff? What if that wasn't the right thing to do? What's going on here? And Abraham says, or God says to Abraham, don't worry about that. I'm your exceedingly great reward. You turned over all that stuff. You have lost nothing. You have given up nothing. So in verse 2, and Abram said, Lord God, Adonai Yahweh, interesting, proposition there. What will you give me, seeing I go childless, and the heir of my house is Eliezer of Damascus? How, I know you're working some kind of plan, but does it have anything to do with me? It's kind of what he's asking. What's going on? Because, I've been sitting around here for years now. You called me out here. We're just, wandering around doing whatever, and yet you got no son. These promises, they seem to be just withering away. I'm not sure they're ever going to happen for me. Year after year, day after day, nothing seems to be changing. I'm getting older, and I'm starting to think about, well, it's time for me to start divvying up the inheritance. And, the best guy I got is Eliezer. He's a great guy, Eliezer. He's one of my servants. Is he supposed to be my descendant? Is he supposed to be my heir? Eliezer is a great name, right? The one who comes alongside. Picture of the Holy Spirit. Verse 3. Then Abraham said, Look, you have given me no offspring. Indeed, one born in my house is my heir. Lord, you've spoken these promises, but I don't see them coming true. And behold, and I love that word, and behold. Consider this, right? Stop and think about this. Something's going on here. The word of the Lord came to him, saying, This one shall not be your heir, but the one who comes from your own body shall be your heir. This is the second time the word of the Lord comes to Abram. Notice chapter 15, verse 1. And the word of the Lord came to Abram. How's it come? You ever wonder that? How does the word of the Lord come? For you and for me, it's quite different. 99% of the time, when the Lord wants to speak to me or speak to you, it's right out of this book. You're in there, and some passage just rises off. It just meets you right in your heart, and it just begins to deal with you, talk to you. Oh, I've met some people. Have you ever met these people? Oh, well, last week I was praying and the Lord told me this. And, and then you talk to him next week. Oh, yeah, and the Lord told me again on Thursday that I should be, and I'm thinking, these people don't even need a Bible. These people, man, they're like plugged right in. They don't need any of this stuff I need. They're just out there. But then you listen for a while. And they go, yeah, the Lord told me I should move in with my girlfriend. It's just like we're married. And suddenly you realize, oh, that isn't the Lord speaking to you. In no way is that the Lord speaking to you. We have the written word of God, and God's voice will never, ever go against what this says. Because he can't change. He's the unchangeable. What he said once will always be. For us, 1 Corinthians 13:9, for we know in part, we prophesy in part, for we now see in a mirror dimly, there's separation. Oh, sure, once in a while something gets through that little separation and it really convicts you. But we need this book because it doesn't change just like God, We can know what God thinks. We can't know how he feels about things and what his goal is and what his direction is. But there are those times when God will lay an impression on your heart. You know, it's funny. He knows exactly how to get your attention. Exactly how to get your attention. You know, I'm one of those 2x4 kind of guys. Yeah, he has to start early with me and, you know, get my attention. I used to think it took an 18-wheeler for the Lord to get my attention sometimes. But that's the exception, not the rule. The rule is he can speak to you every day. You know, that idea where he lays something on your heart has happened to me a few times through the years. Most of the time, I'm reading his word and something just connects, something just hits me. I see it like I've never seen it before, you know. I've read this book, I don't know, 30 times, and you know, you're reading along, and boom, where'd that come from? I've never seen that passage before. I've never made sense of it like that before. And, you know, the text, it becomes bold, it becomes italic, it becomes alive, and it just penetrates you. And I begin to converse with him about that. What are you trying to say here, Lord? What's that all about? That's why I read in the morning and I pray in the morning. That's why. Because when I read, God is speaking to me. And when I pray, I am speaking to him. And you should be listening both of those times. All of those times. So Abe, he's sitting around, you know, thinking through his life. Well, is it going to be Eliezer? What should I give him? I got to start dividing this stuff up. I'm getting old. And he is. He's getting old. Is he the right guy? And somehow the Lord speaks to him. Laid upon his heart. No, that guy's not going to be it. You remember those words I told you? No. Your heir is going to be your bloodline, your seed. It's going to come from you, you know. Verse 5. And he brought him outside and said, now look towards heaven and count the stars if you are able to number them. And he said to him, so shall your descendants be. God brings him outside. I also still wonder, how's he do that? Come on, Abe. Step outside the tent. And it's dark. Imagine the Middle East, you know. And the brightest thing they've ever seen is a torch. And he steps away from the tent. You walk out there, and it's not a forest. It's a desert. And you look up, and there's just nothing. No pollution. No junk. No light filtering through. No, it's just stars everywhere. Look up, my friend. Go ahead. Here's a little challenge for you. Go ahead and just start counting. When you get to about 20,000, let me know. Let me know, maybe 30,000. See how far you can get. Can you count them, Ed? No, I can't count them. Neither will you be able to count your descendants. You know, we still can't count them today. There are about 30,000 stars that are known and named, but we know there's hundreds of billions of stars. Yeah. Verse 6. And he believed in the Lord, and he accounted it to him for righteousness. Now, I don't know about your Bible, but your Bible should have that verse underlined, circled, stars all over it, because that is the basis, that is the center crux of the Bible. All of our faith, all of our belief stands right here in this verse. It's a central passage. It's quoted in Romans chapter 4 and Galatians chapter 3 and James chapter 2. It's a living text. Abe here does something that is just amazing. He believes in the Lord. Well, wait a minute. didn't he leave Ur of the Chaldees and come all the way out here? And you go through all of those mind games that we do. In Romans chapter 4, God speaks to Abraham about his seed singular. About his seed singular, Christ. And that through that seed there will become a multitude. And Abraham is the father of that multitude. Abe must grab hold of something there. He must put two and two together. He must understand that this is the seed of the woman that was talked about in Genesis chapter 3, verse 15, that will stomp all over the head of Satan, of the enemy. So at this moment, it says, Abraham believed in the Lord, capital L, capital O, capital R, capital D. Not Adonai, but Yahweh, Jehovah. He believed in him. It doesn't say he believed what the Lord said, although that's kind of connected. No, it says he believes in the Lord. I put my trust in him. Not in any of these circumstances, not in any of this other stuff. I'm going to believe him. I'm going to believe in him. He's the one that can pull this off. He's the one that can make all of this stuff happen. There is something about God right then that Abraham believes in. And it's so interesting because believe is this picture. It means to lean upon. It's to place all of your weight upon. I know people today. I believe in God. Yeah, like this much, right? You're putting your little finger on there and you're still not even sure you can hold up your little finger. And belief means, oh, you got my whole life. You got all of my weight. You have me, You consider him so dependable, so trustworthy, so right that he will hold you up completely. That's belief. Oh, Abraham's still going to make some mistakes. He's still going to go back down to Egypt and blow it again. He's going to do something with Hagar that's just stupid. But right here, he believes in the Lord, and what does the Lord do? He accounts it. He accounts it to him for righteousness. For righteousness. Not as righteousness. For righteousness. Abraham's righteousness was that he believed in the one who had spoken to him. When you read Romans, or when you read James, or when you read Galatians, you'll find all of these details given in the New Testament about what happens here. And that is why Abraham becomes the father of faith. Right here, this verse. And if you're in this verse, if you have done this, believed in the Lord, then the Lord has done what for you? He has accounted that belief to you for righteousness. No need to work. No need to try harder. No need to be better. No need to, jump through all of these hoops. What's your righteousness? It's what's been accounted to me. It's literally my faith. When we place all of our hope, all of our trust, all of our faith in his promises, in his word, in his truths, literally in him, at that moment, you have just become righteous. Oh, the world won't see you like that. You'll look in the mirror and still not see you like that. But you're seeing a lie. They're seeing a lie. Because righteousness isn't what I do. Righteousness is who I'm declared to be. He's placed that in my bank account. God's righteousness is imputed to the believer. Verse 7. Then he said to him, I am the Lord who brought you out of Ur of the Chaldees to give you this land and to inherit it. And he said, Lord God, how shall I know that I will inherit it? Isn't it interesting? I thought it just said he believed. And now he's going, but how do I know? How do I know about this? Don't miss this. He believed in the Lord. The Lord said this, and the Lord begins to describe who you say you're believing in. I'm that Lord who called you out of Ur of the Chaldees. I'm that Lord who brought you to this land. I'm that Lord who's done all of this stuff. And in verse 8 is a separate question. Make sure it's separate. How shall I know? Now, he's still standing in faith. He's just wanting, is there some way I'm going to know that this is working out? In verse 9 it says, and he said to him, God says, bring me a 3-year-old heifer, a 3-year-old female goat, a 3-year-old ram, and a turtle dove, and a young pigeon. Then he brought all these to him and cut them in two down the middle and placed each piece opposite the other, but he did not cut the birds in two. Now, there's some more information about this thing. Jeremiah 34:18 gives us a little insight into what this says. It says this, and I will give the men who have transgressed my covenant, who have not performed the words of that covenant which they have made before me, when they cut the calf in two and passed between its parts. And what we find out from Jeremiah is that this was a normal way to make a covenant, usually between two people, two parties. You would bring these animals together, and you would cut them in two, long ways, the hard way to cut them in two. It's one thing to saw them in half this way. We can use a magician's box to do that. But the other way is really difficult, You got to cut this animal in half, and then you lay half on this ditch bank and half on this ditch bank, and there's like a little trough between them, and the blood runs down into the trough, So you get this animal, and then you get this animal, and then you get this animal, and then the two birds, you would just wring their necks and throw one over there and put one over there. And when you made a covenant like that, both parties would take hands. They would walk through that ditch. They would walk through that covenant. And they would say, if I break this covenant, may this happen to me. Boy, they were deadly serious about that, right? There's blood, there's sacrifices. This is a sacred covenant. Verse 11, and when the vultures came down on the carcasses, Abram drove them away. Now when the sun was going down, a deep sleep fell upon Abraham, and behold, there's that word again, horror, and great darkness fell upon him. Abe's waiting for the Lord. I don't know if it's 10 o'clock in the morning, 8 o'clock in the morning. He gets all these animals prepared, and he's waiting for the Lord. Lord, you got to show up because we got to walk through this trough together. And the Lord doesn't show up. The Lord doesn't show up, and he has to drive off the birds of prey, and he does all of this stuff. And when evening comes, sun goes down. It says a deep sleep falls upon him. God puts him to sleep. And then horror. Great darkness. And it seems to be spiritual darkness. He's realizing in his sleep, if I walk through this ditch, through this covenant with God, of course God can keep his side, right? He's perfect. He's holy. He'll be able to keep his covenant perfectly. But me? I'm going to lie about something. I'm going to cheat about something. I'm going to do something wrong. And this is going to happen to me. And he's sensing his own humanity. his own fallen nature, being a son of Adam. Because I'm an idolater at the heart. That's what I came out of. I'm just trying to be a simple man of faith, but I'm going to blow it. I've already blown it. And I know it's going to come again. You and I can also stand in this covenant that we have made with the Lord through the blood of Christ, knowing it's not our keeping of the covenant that's going to matter. It's his keeping of the covenant. It's not our goodness. It's not our righteousness. It's not our works. It's not our merit of some sort. Because what we're going to find out is God comes down and walks through this path all by himself. He doesn't take Abraham with him. And what he basically says is, whether you blow it or I blow it, I will pay the price for it. Oh, isn't that a beautiful picture? Because that's exactly what he did. In our darkness, there's darkness. And I just think about outer darkness. The destiny of all those who refuse Christ's sacrifice for them. That's unimaginable darkness. You ever think about that? It's separation from God. So it's separation from everything that God says he is. God is light. So there is no darkness, or there is no light there. So it's dark, right? God is love. There'll be no love there. God is peace, fellowship, joy, purpose, meaning. He's the sustainer. He's righteousness. He's long-suffering. He's kind. He's good. He's gentle. He's faithful. He is self-control. He's all of those things. None of those things are in outer darkness. None of it. Imagine that place. Imagine that place with none of the characteristics of God. That's why it's called hell. People don't want to talk about hell. People don't like to just sit around and discuss hell. What do you think about hell? Hey, Ronnie, what do you think? Hey, let's sit around and talk for 2 hours about hell. Nobody wants to do that. But I watch our world. And I watch anytime somebody dies, anybody dies, they go, well, I know they're up there looking down on me. And I'm like, really? You know that? Because that's a very interesting idea. We love that idea. But it's a lie from hell. Did your dearly departed one give their life to Christ? Did they surrender to Jesus and receive him as Lord and Savior? Did they confess their sins? Did they make a personal relationship with him? If not, folks, they're not up there looking down upon you. They're in a different place, another place. They're on the other side. We don't like that because it reminds us that we're all going to die one day, and we're all going to stand before his throne accountable for what happened in this life. Accountable. What did God just do for Abraham? He accounted him righteous. It's not his doings anymore. It's not his life anymore. Well, I've tried, Mark. I think my good has outweighed my bad. Really? You think that? I've never met anybody that should be able to stand there and say that, Well, I believe God. I believe God is love, and therefore I believe we're just going to skate in because he so loves us. Okay. So God is love. Do you understand that God is holy, 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 the Lord God Almighty? When love sits on a bench, on a judgment seat, can love get in the way of judgment? Not if that's a good judge. Not if that's a righteous judge. His son comes in and he's been out ransacking the world and raping girls and killing people and stuff. That judge has to set love aside and justice must prevail, or he's not a good judge. What do we know about God? He's the best judge. He's righteous and holy, you know. I'm sorry to ruin it for you. I'm not really sorry to ruin it for you. Because we're walking through this world deceived, and we need to wake up and understand that no, we're going to be accountable. There's coming that day. I don't care if you think you're a good person. You know, most people that think they're a good person, you just sit down and talk, well, that's cool. I'm glad you think that. Well, let's take a look at the standard. You know, what's the standard? Well, let's see. Have you ever stolen anything? Well, sure. Little stuff, you know. I make a few extra Xerox copies. I got a few pens at home from work, you know. I got some music on my iPod that nobody should know about. You know, I got some stuff. Okay. Have you ever, you know, lied about anything? Yeah, who hasn't lied? Little white lies, you know, they're okay. Have you ever looked at another person to lust after them? Oh, yeah. Who hasn't done that? Have you ever coveted anyone else's stuff? Maybe their wife, maybe their husband, maybe their lifestyle, maybe their income, maybe their bank account, maybe their car, maybe their... Yeah. You realize that's the line, right? You realize that's the thing. God is holy, holy, holy. How is he going to judge you when you've broken half of his commandments? And of course, then you read the New Testament, it says, you break one of the commandments, you've broken them all. You've broken the whole thing. It's like the commandments is one piece. It's like this very fine porcelain, you know, beautiful little basin. You just break the neck off. I just broke one. No, you broke the whole thing. Your wife will not be happy at you when you come back to, you know, kind of super glued her together. She looks at me. The only way to get to heaven is through the blood of an innocent substitute, and that innocent substitute is Jesus and his death upon the cross. He took up your sin, and he took up my sin, and he put it upon his shoulders. And in that 3 hours of darkness, the Father poured out all of his holy wrath that your sin and that my sin deserved. And Christ paid it all. You know how I know that? Because at the end, you remember at the end of the cross? What was Jesus' final words? Oh, yeah. To tell us that. It is finished. Paid in full. And now, through our faith, God has delivered us from the power of darkness, conveyed us into the kingdom of the Son of his love. Because we deserve it? Because we're all shining examples of what a perfect, you know, godly life should look like? He's taken us from darkness and put us into light. He's taken us from death and placed us into life. He's taken us from hell and placed us into heaven. Because we believe in him. We've placed our faith. We've leaned heavily upon him for that. Because there is only one name given among men by which we must be saved. The name of Jesus. So verse 13. So he's asleep. He's having this nightmare, if you will, in this spiritually dark place. And then he said to Abraham, God speaking, know certainly that your descendants will be strangers in a land that is not theirs, and they will serve them, and they will be afflicted by them for 400 years. Now, we know that they're in Egypt 430 years. Apparently, the first 30 years, no affliction going on, but then a king arises that doesn't know, Joseph and, the slavery thing begins. And also the nation whom they serve I will judge. Afterwards they shall come out with great possessions. You've read this story. You've seen the movie Charlton Heston and the guys coming out, and they got all the stuff with them. Now as for you, you shall go to your fathers in peace, and you shall be buried at a good old age. Abraham will live to be 175 years old. That just blows me away. He doesn't start walking with God until he's 75. He's going to walk with God for 100 years. I just can't imagine what that would be like. I'm just past the first quarter, right? Just a quarter in, 30 years in, whatever it is. And you're going to go to your fathers. It's an interesting idea because his father, Terah, and his grandfather were idolaters. I don't think he's going there. I think he's going to Abraham. I'm sorry. I think he's going to Adam and to Seth and to Noah. He's going to his fathers that believed. Right? Verse 16, but in the fourth generation they shall return here, for the iniquity of the Amorites is not yet complete. In the fourth generation, 400 years. God says a generation is 100 years old, 100 years long. A lot of people want to make it 40 for various reasons. I don't know why. But he says, for the iniquity of the Amorites is not yet full. Neither is the iniquity of the Sodomites, because judgment hasn't fallen on them yet either. Got to get that in your mind. God is waiting. God is long-suffering for the Amorites to repent. He's going to give them 400 more years to repent, to change their mind about God, to turn from their wicked ways. And if you ever want to do a little research, go to your local library, find a book on these Canaanite nations. They were the most ungodly, depraved people on the planet. He's going to wait 400 years before he sends Joshua with the children of Israel to clean house, to cleanse the land. God seems to measure time morally, not chronologically. We're all waiting for some day, some ticking of the clock. God is waiting for a moral barometer to go, Iniquity seems to build up like water behind a dam. And when it reaches a certain point, God must move. Paul tells us in Romans chapter 2, or do you despise the riches of his goodness, his forbearance, and the long-suffering, not knowing that the goodness of God leads you to repentance? But the problem for us comes in his timing, doesn't it? Because God doesn't smoke you the moment you step out of line, It's like, ooh, look at that girl. Your lightning strike. Oh, well, shoot, we'd stop. We'd probably stop stepping out of line quite so badly. Maybe we'd just cut our eyes, But we begin to think, because God doesn't judge us right then, that he's okay with what we're doing, right? But we have a book to remind us what he's okay with and what he's not okay with. What does God think about your sin? What does God think about your lifestyle? What does God think about your rebellion? It's right in here. Just because lightning hasn't struck doesn't mean he approves of what's going on. It just means you're running out of time. You're running out of space. So God will allow his own people, think about this, God's going to allow his own people to go down to Egypt and come under harsh bondage for 400 years. How old's America again? Oh, yeah. And he's going to lead them through the wilderness for 40 years, where they will hunger and thirst, and they have all of these issues and all of these problems. Why? It doesn't seem to make any sense. But without those things, they would have never seen God's power, God's ability to deal with a wayward and rebellious people and still bring them to himself. They would never see the plagues on Egypt. They would never see the Red Sea part. They would never see God speaking from the top of the mountain and hear him, verbally from the top of the mountain. They would never see the walls of Jericho fall down. They would never see, like Og, king of Bashan, who has 40 cities full of giants, and they overcame them. They wiped them out. They would never see that stuff unless God allowed some difficulty in their lives, right? He's going to wait another 400 years for the Amorites until they are absolutely, completely unredeemable evil. Well, almost, right? Because when Joshua comes in, there's this harlot named Rahab. And she gets saved. Isn't it interesting? Individuals are always the exclusion. Mm-hmm. Yeah. We're to be salt. We're to be the salt of the world. That is a preservative. I wonder why God hasn't judged America so far. Could it be you? A preservative in this nation. We're to be light, revealing God to other people, letting them see the difference. But we're also supposed to be ambassadors for Christ. We're supposed to be telling other people about Christ, about the Lord, about the good news. So yeah, God plans things way out. We can't even imagine waiting 400 years for something to happen. You want me to wait? What? Why am I even here? Way in advance. Verse 17. And it came to pass, when the sun went down, and it was dark, that behold, there appeared a smoking oven and a burning torch that passed between those pieces. Two things. A smoking oven or furnace, a burning furnace, and a burning lamp, a torch. Yeah. That is what passes between these, down this ditch, between this sacrifice. Verse 18, and on the same day, the Lord made a covenant with Abraham, saying, to your descendants I have given the land, from the river of Egypt to the great river, the river Euphrates, the Kenites, the Kenizzites, the Cadmonites, the Hittites, all the ites, right? The Termites, the Perizzites, the Rephaim, those are giants, the Amorites, the Canaanites, the Girgashites, and the Jebusites. I have given all of this land to you. God makes this covenant with Abraham without Abraham walking through the covenant. The New Testament is a better covenant, built upon better promises and a better sacrifice. And it's based on God's faithfulness to us, not our faithfulness to him. Because the law was all about you. If you do this, then you get that. Man, I'm so glad I was born in New Testament times, right? Because I am not good at if I do this, I get that. How does God move through this ditch, through this covenant? A smoking furnace. A burning lamp. God will be either the light of the world to you, or a smoking furnace, eternal hell. That's God's nature. That is God's person. What a picture. We know God is a consuming fire. We know that. It's biblical. It's right there in the Word. We also know He's the light of the world. John 3:19. And this is the condemnation, that light has come into the world, and men love darkness rather than light because their deeds were evil. Notice verse 18. And on the same day, the Lord made a covenant with Abraham, saying to him, to your descendants I have given. Notice those words. I have given. Now up to this point, Genesis 12, when we're first introduced to God talking to Abraham, He says, now go, get out of your country, from your family, from your father's house, to a land that I'm going to show you. So there's a land out there somewhere I'm taking you to. And then in Genesis 13:14, and the Lord said to Abraham, after Lot had separated from him, lift up your eyes now and look from the place where you are, northward, southward, eastward, westward, for all the land that I'm going to give you is right here. And now we get to here, and He says, I have already given it. Don't you love that? Go to the place, look around the place. This is the land I have already given you. That covenant is in the past tense. It's done. It's a done thing. We're all going to find ourselves in this chapter. Some promise doesn't seem to be coming true. I'm hanging on to this thing, but it's just not happening for me. Don't know what's going on. Some fear will have you in its bondage, and you're just locked away. You're just totally like, oh, I can't get past this fear. Some thought of you losing. Lord, I shouldn't have gave that away. Lord, I made a bad business decision. Lord, this seems not to be working out. You know, I did the right thing, but it's turning out wrong. And in the emotion of the time, can I just tell you, you can be honest with God. Matter of fact, He would prefer it. Right? He would prefer it. Just get along with Him and go, God, I don't know what's going on here. I don't know why. I don't get it. I don't understand it. I can't see it. God expects us to be real. You know why? You ever read the New Testament? What was He upset with most people in the New Testament for being? A hypocrite. Not being real. You know, we know Hebrews 4:13. That there is no creature hidden from His sight, but all things are naked and open to the eyes of Him to whom we must give an account. We know Psalm 139:4, for there is not a word on my tongue, but behold, O Lord, you know it altogether. He knows us. He sees us. He sees us going through this thing, and we're like, oh, holy, righteous God, I'm perfectly fine down here. You know, that's a big lie, isn't it? What should we be doing? Oh God, oh God, oh God, oh God, oh God, you know. I need you to show up here. We're not to be phonies. We're not to be hypocrites. We're not to just put on our happy plastic Christian face and show up to church. Oh, how's it going? Oh, I'm doing amazing. You know, liar. You should walk back out and repent. Come back in, you know. He knows what's going on with you. What's He want? He wants you to talk to Him about it. Go ahead and ask the questions. That's so much better than being a religious hypocrite. Just bring your thoughts out into the light. Right? Lord, I'm afraid. You know? This thing that's going on, it scares me. It's got its little clutches in me right now, and that's not right. According to Your Word, that's not right. So God, I need You. You know, Lord, I don't know what to do about this or about that. I need wisdom. I need finances. I need. Lord, this is what Your Word seems to be saying to me, and this is the way I read it. Am I reading that right? You ever ask Him about that? You give everybody this promise, and I'm reading this promise, and I'm living in life, and I'm reading this promise. Am I reading this right? Is this really for me? We got to be like Abram, who believes in the Lord. He's the one that calls things that are not as though they are, you know. He's the one that changes everything. He's the one that speaks and it happens. And you believe in him. He accounts that belief as righteousness or for righteousness. Because none of this covenant stuff is dependent upon us. It's dependent upon him. Is it his word? Is it his promise? Then let him fulfill it. Stop trying to fulfill it yourself. Trust him for it. That we would lean upon the Lord with everything we have. You know what that's called? Being totally dependent. We hate that idea. Well, I don't really want to be dependent on nobody. I want to be a self-made man. I want to stand here, you know. Well, good luck with that. Because in Christianity, I'm absolutely dependent upon him. If he doesn't show up today, man, it's over. You know? Because all the work is done. It's finished. I have the belief he takes care of the rest. In Galatians 2:20, for I have been crucified with Christ, and it is no longer I who live, but Christ who lives in me, or maybe through me, right? My physical frame somehow, my sinful nature was on that cross with Christ. And he paid for that. It died there. I'm not supposed to restore this. Sometimes we get in that place as Christians, right? This old man, he needs a lot of work. He does not. He needs to die. That just needs to die. Throw it out in the garbage and leave it there, you know? I have been crucified with Christ. It is no longer I who live, but Christ who lives in me. And the life that I now live in the flesh, notice that difference. The life that I now walk around in this thing with, because there's a life that takes place up here, and there's a life that takes place outwardly. That outward life, I live by faith in the Son of God, who loved me and gave himself for me, right? He hung on that cross in my place. And then the best news of all. And I do not set aside the grace of God. For if righteousness comes through the law, then Christ died for nothing. Oh, he didn't die for nothing. He died for me. And he died for you. And thank God for grace. Because grace is what covers all of that junk that I still wind up in the middle of. And it's covered. How is it covered? Because I still believe in him. And that belief is accounted to me for righteousness. We get a chance for communion today. And what a great place to be. I stand in here in faith, stand in here in belief. Lord, I don't know about the circumstances. I don't know about the world. I don't know about the virus. I don't know about the politicians. Lord, I don't know about any of this stuff. Right? But I know one thing. I believe in you. Amen. And it's the you that is described right here. The only Son of God. The eternal Word of God come down, taken on flesh, dwelt among us. Lived a perfect life. Showed that the law could be lived out. Went to that cross and took every last sin and failure and wicked thought upon himself. This perfect, pure one with your sin and my sin, which would be devastating if I had to deal with all of my sin at one moment. He dealt with it all. And he comes out of those 3 hours of darkness to tell us that. To tell us maybe the greatest word in the Bible for me personally. It's finished. You're not finished. I'm still working on you. But that, your salvation, everything that takes place to get to me, that's finished. That's done. That's paid in full. Amen. So as we go back and we partake of these elements, would you celebrate where you stand, where you sit today? Because you sit in the heavens with Christ. Oh, you may not be there physically, but you are there. There's an inheritance, undefiled, reserved in your name. Your name is up there, written in heaven. Here's your pile of inheritance. Here's your... That blows me away. How do you know that? Because I believe in Him. End of story. And when I believe in Him, that means this is true. And when this is true, then I can read it and it transforms me. Because this is what God says. All this other stuff is just fluff and fake, and all this other stuff is a vapor that's disappearing. I believe this, and I believe Him.